Vai começar tudo de novo. Café, duche, comboio e trabalho. Não é uma ideia repetida? Sim. Mas já vi muita gente à minha volta deprimida ou ansiosa só de pensar em ir trabalhar. Por isso mudam de empresa na esperança de melhorar no outro lado e repetem meses depois. Todos os dias é a mesma coisa e só sonham em fazer uma pausa. Fins de semana, férias, até à reforma. E porquê? Quando somos apanhados nesta corrida sem fim, esquecemos-nos de fazer as perguntas certas.
So why do we even work? We work to eat and to live.
É tão simples como trabalho para comer e para viver. É só isso. Mas quando falamos em viver, há muito mais que dizer. Quero divertir-me no trabalho, passar os meus dias com pessoas de quem gosto e sentir-me útil. Mas será possível? Por que acordar 5 dias por semana para ir trabalhar? E por que escolher uma determinada empresa? Vou partir numa aventura à procura de respostas de quem já encontrou a sua motivação. E será uma grande viagem.
It's very hard to give a definition of work, and the relationship with money isn't clear. When you ask some people, I asked my daughter recently, why will you work? Why would you work? And she said, for money. But it's unclear whether that defines work. Is it activity for which you get paid or not?
Money itself is not a purpose. It's a way to purpose.
It is the increasing expectation, I think, that employees have. They want more out of their work life than simply a paycheck.
I spend most of my awake life here at work, so it needs to be something that fulfills me.
When you connect with a company that you feel passionate about and that you're doing the right thing, it doesn't feel like work.
Parce qu'on sait répondre à la question en quoi cette boîte elle est utile et en quoi moi je suis utile à partir du moment où je m'engage pour elle.
A primeira coisa que queremos é sentir-nos felizes quando acordamos para ir trabalhar. Talvez por gostarmos de estar com os colegas, ter boas conversas e passar um bom bocado. Ou talvez não seja preciso ir para o escritório porque encontraram um equilíbrio entre emprego e vida a trabalhar à distância. Resumindo, o ambiente laboral desempenha um grande papel na forma como vemos o nosso trabalho.
There's something really nice about being an employee is that usually you have colleagues and you're surrounded by people, and sometimes they can even replace your family. And this sense of belonging that you get by working with others, whether they are your colleagues or not, by the way, is something that provides a lot of satisfaction at work. And those little signs, the little cues that you get from others, whether it's just, hi, how are you, and see you tomorrow, this little see you tomorrow, that's something that's much more important than we think it is, because it says you have a future with the group.
Dans un monde en déconstruction et en réinvention, tu t'engages d'abord et avant tout pour les autres, pour cette famille que tu n'as pas choisie, qu'est l'entreprise, et que donc tu veux pouvoir y créer des liens les plus authentiques, les plus vrais possibles. Et donc, il n'y a plus vraiment de frontières à partir du moment où les gens avec qui tu bosses peuvent devenir des amis et qu'en réalité, c'est ça que tu vas chercher.
We believe in having fun at work, right? It's part of the Ben & Jerry's ethos. When the guys were in business the first year from 1978 to 1979, they said, we have to come up with a slogan so people understand what our business is. And at that time, they had the belief of being a better company. So Ben's his quote was, business has a responsibility to give back to the community. Jerry's quote was, if it's not fun, why do it?
Oh yeah, if it's not fun, why do it? It's like a mantra here. Like if you truly are not having fun with what you're doing, like there is no point for you to be doing it. And like if you get the chance to talk to other people, you will see that rings true.
Right, even with our name titles, like we're saying, our title at work, you could have a regular boring business title, but the idea when you meet with people and you say, I'm from Ben & Jerry's, here's my title, they're always going, man, Ben & Jerry's, you guys know how to have a good time. When I was working here 25, 30 years ago, a truck would back up with blueberries and we would shut down the offices and we would all go out and help unload blueberries because it was fruit. It couldn't, last all day long. So we said it was a priority. And that idea of working together was a pretty magical thing, right? Pretty unique when you're a small company. When you grow that way, to be able to still keep people involved, that it takes more work, it takes more effort, but it's something I think we're really dedicated to.
But we've never lost that fun in what we do. We're constantly joking with each other, playing little pranks on each other. It just makes it fun to show up, to know that you can have fun and you can goof around and still get your job done. But it definitely makes the hours fly by a little faster. My wife told me, hey, they're hiring for summer tour guides. Why don't you see, if you can get a job there? So I think the reason why people come is varied. I think the reason why people stay is culture and how they're treated and what the company's all about. That's been my experience here. I definitely planned on this being a short stop on the map for a summer and then on to something different, and then 12 years later, I'm still here.
When you connect with a company that you feel passionate about and that you're doing the right thing, it doesn't feel like work, right? It doesn't feel like effort. It feels like I am excited to come to work and to do the things that we get to do. And so that's the thought in terms of why choose a company? If you can find one that motivates you and one that you connect with personally, go do that.
On va t'inciter à être parfaitement comme tu es, que tu te sentes parfaitement libre de l'expression de ta personnalité, plus que ça de ta singularité. On t'impose pas de porter un masque en arrivant pour être quelque chose qui est attendu par la société. C'est un peu McDonald's, hein. Venez comme vous êtes, mais pour de vrai. Et parce que tu te sens en adéquation et pas en justification de ce que t'es, ou en mimétisme de ce que tu devrais être, t'es pleinement performant. T'es pleinement toi, en fait.
I don't have to be someone I'm not, so I get to come up here and be myself. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so I'm American, but I'm from the Caribbean. So Vermont is a very different, culturally very different place from home. I feel like at Ben & Jerry's I get to come as myself. I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. I don't have to hide my accent. I just can be 100% myself.
As regalias também são uma parte importante no ambiente laboral. Uma das mais divertidas no Ben & Jerry's é comer gelado todos os dias. É um sonho. Mas há outro tipo de regalia que algumas empresas estão a começar a oferecer aos funcionários e eu sei que é o sonho de muita gente. Uma política de férias ilimitadas. Vamos voltar à França e conhecer a equipa do Open Classrooms para saber mais sobre este assunto. A empresa começou quando Matthew e Pierre eram adolescentes e quiseram oferecer cursos online. Desde então chegaram muito longe e agora têm uma equipa de centenas de pessoas dedicadas a tornar a educação acessível para todos.
A couple of years ago, we decided to implement this unlimited pay holiday policy, and we want to make sure that you will take this time. And it's not like, oh yeah, it's there, but there is social pressure not to take it, right? Because this would be bullshit. So we implemented a bonus of 1,000 euros every time you take a vacation that is longer than 3 weeks. So the company tells you, take more than 3 weeks every year, and we will pay you 1,000 euros to do so, because we believe it's going to be good for you, and because it's going to be good for you, it's going to be good for the company and for the rest of the organization.
This is not something basic. It means that you don't have to worry anymore if you have to pick one day off to attend personal matters, or if you need to rest. You don't have to worry about this. So as long as you perform on a long-term basis, it's okay, right?
A great work environment is not just a beautiful office space where people will find wonderful canteens, the way Silicon Valley companies have defined great work environments over the past 20 years. A great work environment today, for a lot of jobs, is flexibility in the way you approach time and space at work, especially in services, especially in knowledge work. A lot of people want to combine their own workspaces. Some people want to live close to the mountains and go ski every weekend. Others want to be next to a beach and go surf every weekend, whatever. The flexible way you can approach work and space, that's your environment.
I got to know this area during the pandemic. Thanks to Open Classrooms, I was able to work from here for about 2 months. I fell in love with the area. It just brings together everything that I like to do in my personal time. You know, cycling, walking in the nature, hiking. The sea is not very far. So I felt when I was there last year that I would love to live here maybe one day. It allows me to to still continue to do the job I was doing before for Classrooms, have the impact that I've had so far, but also do the things that I like. This is a future of work.
So we're a remote-first company, not a remote-only company. So we still have offices, and we're in a headquarters in Paris. We have offices also in Nantes, in London, in New York. We want to give the freedom, the choice to our employees. We want also to be closer to our students. All students study online, so it feels only natural that we collaborate and we work online too, to some extent, right?
Concordo. A comunicação simultânea é o novo normal. Até eu. Nunca trabalhei no escritório e trabalho à distância todos os dias. E a maioria dos meus amigos que trabalham em serviços faz a mesma coisa. É um ambiente laboral bastante atrativo, não acham? Mas será igual em todos os setores? E as pessoas com empregos que não podem ser feitos à distância? Fui ao centro do Reino Unido a uma fábrica de vidro de Saint-Gobain. Como imaginam, alguém tem de lá estar para pôr as máquinas a trabalhar.
Moi, j'ai jamais vu des rapports humains plus puissants, plus respectueux, plus profonds que dans des boîtes industrielles centenaires. Parce qu'il y a la culture de l'atelier, t'as la culture du compagnonnage, t'as la culture de l'apprentissage dans les deux sens, du respect intergénérationnel. Et ça façonne les fondations qui sont extraordinaires pour des rapports humains.
A nice website, good salary, good benefits, and a clear mission can help to bring people in. But what really makes people want to stay is the experience they have once they're in the company. I've spent more than 20 years working in manufacturing industry, so I've seen how it creates long-term relationships, friendships and bonds between employees. I think some of that is because we are so beholden to the process. The manufacturing process is so important. And when you get technical hiccups or difficulties, it's really important that everybody comes together to solve those issues as quickly as we can so that we can keep making our products and keep supplying our customers. It's very important that within the course of your working day, it is not 100% about work. There is actually time for conversation, just to spend some time with people, to talk about what you did at the weekend or what TV show you're watching. And that's fine. It's a really, really important part of how people connect with each other and absolutely needs to be encouraged in the workplace.
Então parece que a primeira grande motivação é criar um bom ambiente laboral. Parece óbvio que devemos ter amigos no emprego, divertirmos-nos e ter flexibilidade. Mas é bom recordar que isto é a base, pois muitas empresas não conseguem oferecer este ambiente laboral. Mas um bom ambiente laboral não chega, pois não? Temos de gostar do que fazemos, do trabalho em si. E isso é a segunda motivação. E sobre esse tema, adoro a análise da Letícia. Ela recomenda uma reaproximação aos valores do trabalho manual.
Usually when I speak about craftsmanship, I tend to speak about craftspeople and self-employed people and freelancers. But in fact, the values of craftsmanship, autonomy, responsibility, creativity, can be compatible with being somebody's employee. We've inherited this world of work where the head and the hands were separated in a violent way. So you had those people in charge of thinking, designing the processes, the engineers, the thinkers. And then on the other hand, you had the people whose sole job was to execute a task and to do it in a very reliable way, in a very repetitive way. And this is a very violent thing for most people. This is not the way we would naturally approach work. Naturally, our intelligence is as much in our hands as it is in our head. And a lot of people today want to reconcile the head and the hands. And it can mean working with your hands or using your hands more, but it can also mean basically making things, and that involves the head as much as the hands.
Carpinteiros, chocolateiros e ceramistas. Todos sabem como reconciliar a cabeça e as mãos. Para perceber melhor a teoria da Letícia, encontrei-me com um artesão com um trabalho que admiro há anos. Está sediado em Chamonix-Mont Blanc. Rodeado pelas montanhas, já imaginam quanto queria conhecê-lo. O Peter faz skis de madeira e não escolheu um mau lugar para o ateliê, pois não?
So I got the idea, strangely, to make a modern freeride ski with a solid ash core, using the ash in its finest quality to make something that's performant, modern, but also with that traditional material. It can only be done on a very small scale, like on a craft scale. Basically, it starts from the tree, from the log, where I'll take a log they've chosen in ash, and I will start looking at the grain to see where I can put the core material, what I can use to make the ski. Because every shape of a ski, every size of a ski will be different and will create the kind of action the ski is going to bring to us. It's kind of like making a car. You can, if you make a truck or if you make a sports car. It's a challenging process because there's always another step to start and to prepare. It's never ending. When you've assembled one, you go into the finishing process of the ones that were assembled before. So it's kind of like a dance. But if that intensity is not brought in every single step of making the ski, even the ones that are very tedious, the sanding, the emptying of the wood chips when the dust collection's full. I mean, people don't see a lot of the steps that are just kind of grueling carpentry, you know, maintaining things. But that's super important. And I think that that is also the interest of it, you know.
So craftsmanship is not solely for people working with their hands in the strictest of sense and making things with wood. It's also just basically being at peace with who you are and using all of who you are at work.
It's not just about thinking what kind of benefit you're going to make of something. It's about how the object is going to be used, how it will last, how the people who are going to use it will create that sentimental tie with this pair of skis. Well, most of our clients are very passionate skiers, love the mountains, same as I. So I start by asking them what they like to do and where they ski. And very quickly I understand what they're interested in the mountains. I mean, some people are really looking just for free ride, pure powder as much as possible. Some people are skiing in the resorts and also powder skiing, kind of a mixed use. And some people say, no, we're really mainly with the family on the slopes. And I think that that's satisfying and very special when you can make an object that someone actually can use for a long time and they fall in love with. On our level of production, very small, maybe 100 pairs of skis at most a year, we're able to bring that quality to the people I make skis for, and that's a great pleasure. Oh, I don't count the hours. I've never counted the hours that I work, but often they're very long days. Long days because there's always something else to do. Long days because that allows you to be even more prepared for the next day. In the craft process, often it's really cool to glue things together at night so that the next morning you can continue the next steps. So often they're really long days. But since I enjoy what I'm doing, it's not really a problem, you know. I don't wear a watch, I never have. I have a biological clock, and it's more about going from each step to the next in that whole fabrication process.
So creativity is not just being Picasso. Creativity is finding a unique solution to a problem and using your head to find it. So a lot of people who work in finance or in accounting and work on Excel spreadsheet, you do not usually associate an Excel spreadsheet to creativity, but it's actually usually very creative. And if you've done a little bit of mathematics, you know that it can be super challenging to find a unique way and a unique path to solve a problem. And Excel is a tool to do that.
I definitely think we can find creativity in every realm of work. And the most important thing is that when people choose to do something, they're passionate about it and interested in it. That has just as much creativity in every moment as I do when I'm making an object or a ski. Creativity can be found everywhere, and that is what makes the world a beautiful place. Everyone, I think, has creativity in them. Some people don't maybe admit it or think they're creative.
Uau! O Peter representa mesmo o espírito dos trabalhos manuais. Agora já percebo melhor. Quando vemos um belo objeto ou uma obra de arte magnífica, para obter o resultado é preciso muita intensidade na sua arte. E eu concordo que somos todos criativos. Só expressamos isso de maneiras diferentes. Depois de conhecer o Peter, precisava de ver se quem trabalha com um computador se identifica com os valores dos trabalhos manuais. Apanhei um avião para conhecer uma equipa na Mindera. Apelidam-se de artesãos do software.
Software craftsmanship. Well, building software is like building anything else. It can actually be a form of art. We use software every day on our phones, on our computers, and someone built it. It's not just something that appears out of thin air. It's not made by a computer. It was made by a person.
So the idea of when you're a craftsman, a normal craftsman, when you're working with wood, you would build like some furniture, and on the back, if you're a real craftsman, it would look as good as on the front. So something that no one would see normally. And I would look at software craftsmanship like that. So the code itself, the process itself, it's carefully made. And it's just not looking at the results. The process as a whole is part of the result. And sometimes it's just when you do something simple that solves a very complex problem, that's beauty.
The way people write code is very different from each other. And you can also see traces of their own personalities there, the way they organize it, the way they document it.
Yeah, so I think you need to be proud of what you're doing. So I think that's a key thing. And I think if you're not proud of what you're doing, you're probably going to end up just doing it for the money. To be proud of what you're doing, you're going to put a lot of you into whatever you're doing. So that means that if you have more autonomy, you're going to put more of yourself into it. You're going to be more creative in building stuff. You're going to be responsible for what you're doing. So I think I see a lot of those values as needs to create craftsmanship.
Autonomia, criatividade, responsabilidade. São os valores dos trabalhos manuais que os membros da Mindera utilizam no seu cotidiano. Têm uma abordagem única à gestão, pois não têm gestores.
So we work in a different way. We do not have management. We work in a collaborative way. All of us together, making decisions together. And this, I believe, is different than many companies. So we do not have one person making the decision for all of us. We together make the decisions.
In our culture, we really don't control people's time as long as just they're delivering what they need to. I think that's something important. Like I would never control my team just to make sure they are working from 9 in the morning to 5. If they want to go for a break and surf, everyone is free to do that, as long as you're just doing your work at the end. We have a flat hierarchy. Like, you don't need to go through all the levels before you need to take a decision, right? So you don't have a boss.
some people that work here kind of reached me and said, you want to join us? Told me about the company itself, and I found it was like a anarchy, communist style thing. It was kind of confused me. How do you don't have managers? How do you kind of do things? Who tells you what to do? Where are the borders? That's what fascinated me. Like, I want to know more. Is this real? Is this just corporate nonsense that you just speak out just to kind of get people on board? It's real. So we don't have managers in the world. We don't think we need managers. And for the past 7 years, we didn't need them. So we just needed people, autonomy, and build up on that.
The first time I got here, I asked, well, so what's my job description? What am I supposed to do? And the thing they asked me is, what do you want to do? So I just started seeing what everybody else was doing, and I started giving inputs on my first day on how, well, maybe we can change this, or maybe we can try and change that. On the first day I got here. Here I have ownership of everything I do. If I decide to do something, well, it was me who decided to do it, or it was like a group decision, a team decision, and it was very democratic. Everybody voted, let's do it like that. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you have ownership of the process, and that ownership makes me feel like that this company belongs to me too. The reason why many people stay here is because of the culture, definitely. That's the main reason why I'm here. You could offer me double of the salary, and I don't see myself moving.
Muito bem, já vimos que uma empresa pode crescer sem gestores. Mas também é possível ter um ambiente laboral parecido com gestores. A maioria das empresas não está pronta para acabar com isso, mas o papel de um gestor é criar um ambiente em que todos sintam confiança para tomar a iniciativa e falar, e o gestor está lá para ajudar nisso e reconhecer o trabalho.
It's a relationship of trust, and I think it's why I'm here today. To me, being trusted and believing in my own capabilities, giving me autonomy, is what helps me, perform well, but also is going to be my main driver, knowing that I can also be authentic, like my true self, that I won't have to add any filters to how I say things, is really, really important. And I do have this in my relationship with my manager.
I think it's hugely important for us to encourage autonomy within our workforce. There are lots of opportunities for it. We want people to really share in the success of the business, and through that, to find that ability to solve their own problems. It's very rewarding to actually be able to spot a problem, find your own solution, do your own analysis, and be able to put that solution in place, and also be recognized for that. Hugely important.
C'est-à-dire qu'il y a des managers qui sont des jardiniers de l'engagement et qui, sur des pools de talents, en fait, sont dédiés au fait de cultiver la singularité, de renouveler les deals tous les 6 mois, tous les 2 ans, tous les 5 ans, ça dépend des collaborateurs, ça dépend des générations, mais de se poser les questions, en fait, de manière ultra régulière, des conditions d'expression de la singularité et d'engagement sans filtre, sans masque, des talents quels qu'ils soient.
Descobrimos algumas motivações para dar significado ao trabalho. É óbvio que precisamos de um bom ambiente laboral, colegas que se tornam amigos. As contrapartidas continuam a ser importantes, a flexibilidade também. Depois também temos de gostar do que fazemos, do trabalho em si. Mas será só isso? Se estiver disposto a oferecer o que tenho de mais valioso na minha vida, o meu tempo, 8 horas por dia, quero que valha a pena. Quer contribuir em projetos que sejam importantes. Quer ser útil.
When companies were created initially, it was for a mission. It was not to make money. Making money was, a mean to the mission. Yeah, so we defined the mission of Open Classrooms a couple of years ago, not from the get-go, obviously, because, you know, in middle school, when we were 11 or 13 years old, we had no idea what even a company was, frankly. The intent behind the project was not to build a company, it was to help people.
As a kid, actually, growing up in Romania, my parents chose to send me to a school because I did not have access to education where they seemed to live. So they sent me as a kid to a different city, which was quite far from where we used to live. And that meant a lot of effort for them, but also for me as a kid. And so that makes me realize now as an adult how difficult that was to have access, you know, to great education. And so when working for a company that's mission-driven, you know, I have this in the back of my mind as I work, you know, on various opportunities, whether it's partnerships or just creating new relationships, that my action will eventually impact individuals like myself who did not have access to traditional education. So I think that's just the main driver in everything that I do.
The best days that I have are the ones really directly connected to the mission. Like I talk to students or clients and you see really directly the impact that we're having on their lives. The father of one of our students shared his son's story, and actually his son was incarcerated, and we helped him to get trained as a developer, and he found an apprenticeship contract thanks to us, and because of this contract he managed to get out of jail. And then you connect that to your job and you're like, wow, this is impactful, this is something that is useful for people, and you're really impacting people's life very dramatically, and it makes you proud.
What I see is it's more and more important to the people who come and interact with us and apply to come and work with us that there is a very clear purpose, that we can articulate what our place is in society, what we are trying to do for the world, for the planet. I know that those products stand for quality, but also sustainability, and they're so strongly linked to our purpose of making the world a better home. So it makes me feel really proud. In fact, when I go to the homes of my friends and they're maybe having some work done, an extension done in their home, I always have a look at the glass. And if it's Saint-Gobain glass, I'm always really proud, and I feel it makes me want to tell them about the product that they have in their home. Also in the manufacturing industry, you see what you're doing, it's there in front of you, you're making something, it's real, you can touch it, you can see it being applied in the outside world.
The people who do something whose end result is very clear, whether it's tangible or not, they don't need to sit around a table and discuss what is our purpose. Do we have a purpose? Or what is our mission? Should we follow the mission and accomplish the missions? Usually, the more you talk about it, the less obvious it is, and the more bullshit it tends to be, or the more fake it tends to be. So I'm not saying that it cannot be something complex and not obvious, but usually through your actions and your work, you do not have to think long and hard about what the mission is.
Dans un monde qui est parcouru de transitions sociales et environnementales qui sont inédites dans l'histoire de l'humanité, il faut que je m'engage dans des entreprises qui ont un effet d'impact à l'échelle. Et donc, plus que d'être entrepreneur de ma vie en quête d'un sens sublimé, il faut que je sois utile au monde dans des boîtes qui ont la capacité de faire bouger les lignes.
Aqui estamos nós e é por isso que atravessamos o Atlântico. Mesmo que a missão não tenha uma ligação clara aos produtos e serviços, podemos unir o pessoal de uma empresa, o produto e os fornecedores à volta dos mesmos valores e marcar uma posição em assuntos importantes. E nesse sentido, a Ben & Jerry's é a líder.
Yeah, we started with this idea of having a mission because of those co-founders. There is a Ben, there is a Jerry, they're still employees at Ben & Jerry's. And when they started this whole thing over 40 years ago, they were just two young pals in their 20s that were looking to, they both loved eating food and hanging out together. So they said, let's get together and make a business around food. And one of their favorite foods was ice cream. So, right, those guys who started the business believed in not taking advantage of somebody. Right? Their thought was, we don't like the thought that most businesses make money profiting off of someone being marginalized. And so the idea, how do we run business in a different way, was something that Ben and Jerry really promoted. There's a lot of businesses that are kind of purpose washing, right? That go, I want to do something good so you'll like me, and make that part of their marketing. That's not what Ben and Jerry's does, right? We try to take an issue that we care about and act on that because it's important to us and because it's part of our values. It matches our values that way. It's not about marketing. So sometimes we'll take a stance on an issue that may not actually help drive the sales part of our business, but to Ben & Jerry's, that's not, we don't make decisions that way, right? In my 30 years of being here, I've never sat in a meeting where someone goes, let's not do that because it's going to hurt sales.
In 2016, we were probably, as far as I know, the first big company to come out in publicly support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Are a result of deliberate government policy. If Jerry and I had been black, there never would have been a Ben & Jerry's.
I can tell you that the phones over here in this part of the office, our consumer care line, they rang off the hook for 3 weeks. We had thousands and thousands of people contact the company who opposed our decision and described the Black Lives Matter movement as a terrorist movement, as anti-cop. And so if you're our CEO, yeah, and you've got your consumer care team who typically day to day are answering phone calls because people didn't get enough cookie dough in their ice cream, or they got too much cookie dough in their ice cream. They're taking calls from very angry and upset people. There are many corporate leaders, I believe, who would look at that and say, we made a mistake. That was a mistake. We're an ice cream company. We shouldn't have done that. And I think what's different about the leadership here is they look at that, and I think they understand that we must have done something important to engender that kind of response.
When we go into a new country and we take a stance on some controversial issue, like supporting same-sex marriage, and we'll say for 30 years we've been supporting the LGBTQ community here in the US, where if other countries don't know that, we come in and they go, why is an ice cream company getting involved with gay marriage and being supportive of that? When they understand our history, that it's something that's been important to us and something we've acted on, then it makes a lot more sense to them. I think once you set that expectation, as Ben & Jerry's has done, now people expect us to take a stance on issues, to get involved and try to grow our impact, so it's not just about our own supply chain. Recently, we had the chance where we've been suffering from a labor shortage like everyone globally, right? You don't have enough employees. And so our manufacturing facility said, we need some help to make ice cream. So they reached out to people in the office to say, can you come jump on the line and help out? So when I was there on the line working for 12 hours and you're watching pints go by, 300 pints a minute that are coming by and just going by so fast, when we're doing flavors that you know, like our chocolate fudge brownie ice cream that uses brownies from the Grayston Bakery in Yonkers, New York, right? They employ homeless people, they give them job skills and training, and you go, every time one pint goes by, you know what you're doing is helping that mission, right? That really makes it impactful, I think, when you're working on the line, as opposed to just sitting there saying, all right, I'm going to be looking at the clock and waiting for when my shift ends.
Mais je crois que le fait pour l'entreprise de faire des courbettes et de se dire on est dans une guerre des talents et donc on doit être à la mode, à la page, etc., etc., c'est pas le bon angle d'attaque. C'est une course, c'est une guerre qui est perdue d'avance. Par contre, être droit dans ses bottes, dans son patrimoine et dans ce en quoi on croit, dans la philosophie du business qu'on porte aussi. Une boîte libertarienne, c'est pas une entreprise humaniste. C'est deux choses qui n'ont rien à voir, c'est pas la même proposition de valeur. Et en face, t'as pas les mêmes talents, qui cherchent pas la même chose. Et fine, en fait, tu vois. T'as du noir, du blanc, à 51 degrés, voilà. Pas de dogme.
I think it's important that corporations be a part of supporting change in society. Our society is wrestling with massive issues, right? From women's rights to LGBTQ rights to climate change to racial justice. for better or for worse, and it's often for worse, corporations are the most powerful entity in society. They have great sway over people, over policymakers, governments, and institutions. And so the question is, how are companies using that power? And to be clear, they do wield that power. We do it publicly. Right? We tell you what we believe, and we tell you the kinds of policies and change that we want to see in the world. The way it happens most of the time is corporations have lobbyists and lawyers, and they spend in political campaigns, and they influence behind the scenes. So you don't really know what they stand for.
J'avoue que je crois assez peu à un espèce de sursaut éthique worldwide qui fait qu'on transforme nos sociétés, qu'on transforme nos entreprises. Par contre, à partir du moment où les collaborateurs, qui sont aussi des consommateurs, convergent vers des attendus qui sont les mêmes, tu changes les règles du jeu, donc tu incites les entreprises pour des raisons économiques, de survie de la performance, à se transformer. Donc c'est en ça que je crois. Et donc pour répondre à la question, je pense que oui, ça va passer à un moment donné par la réponse à cette question en quoi l'entreprise elle est profondément utile au monde d'aujourd'hui et au monde de demain. Et si on n'est pas en capacité de répondre à cette question, probablement qu'on va mourir en tant qu'entreprise. Pas parce qu'on va mourir dans l'absolu, pas parce que c'est pas bien de juste être une boîte friedmanienne, business of business is doing business, mais juste parce que les collaborateurs et les consommateurs, en fait, à un moment donné, convergent et vont faire des choix conscients. Si on joue notre rôle de talent et de client, c'est probablement l'accélérateur des transformations qu'on appelle de nos voeux. C'est ça la définition de la mission. C'est comment est-ce qu'on peut être utile et générer de la performance durablement sur les 30 prochaines années.
Our consumers, you know that we have this social mission, that we use our company to advance social change in the world. Those consumers are measurably more loyal, about 4 times more loyal than consumers who just think we sell them ice cream. Those consumers who know what we do are less likely to buy Haagen-Dazs when it's on sale 2 for $5 at Walmart, right? And so if that works for us, it can work for any company. And I think the other important thing that, whether you call it having a purpose or being values-led, it is an incredibly powerful motivator for employees.
I don't think I would ever work for a company that doesn't have a clear purpose. You do what you got to do to put food on the table, obviously, and if you're in the position where that's what you need to do, then you do what you got to. But as far as what I would want to do and what would call to me, that's a big part of why I'm here at Ben & Jerry's. It's a big part of why I've stuck around. And if I were to ever leave here one day for whatever reason, I would definitely be looking for a place that had a similar sort of mentality where they're not just here for the bottom line or to make money for shareholders, but we're here to make the world better. But I've been part of the Ben & Jerry's Foundation, and I've been able to go and actually talk face-to-face with the people who are impacted by the decisions we make and the things we do as far as funding various organizations. And I keep that in the back of my head. So as we're fighting through issues on the production floor or we're struggling with waste or whatever we might be doing, in the back of my head, I can always remember it's part of something bigger and it's making an impact in the world, and that kind of colors things in a really positive way.
Even if you don't agree with the particular position we may have on the criminal justice system, that's what's important about Ben & Jerry's. No matter where you sit in the company and who you are, there is a way for you to connect with the mission and values of the company.
Cette quête de sens, je pense qu'elle est absolument pas générationnelle. Elle est vitale, parce que finalement, le taf, c'est l'activité qui nous prend le plus de temps à l'échelle d'une vie. Donc il est impérieux que ça soit pas pauvre, totalement inutile. Et ne serait-ce que dans les interactions humaines et les liens sociaux de qualité qu'on va avoir dans une équipe, ça donne du sens à la vie, ça donne du relief à l'existence. Je pense que ce qui est en train, par contre, de se préciser de génération en génération, c'est que la quête de sens, elle se dote d'une définition qui est moins personnelle que sociétale. Et donc, je ne m'engagerai, je vais donner 10 heures de mes journées, 40 ans de ma vie, qu'en échange d'une contribution utile au monde qui est le mien.
Bem, afinal não é assim tão difícil encontrar um significado para o trabalho. Entre o ambiente laboral, a forma como atingimos os nossos objetivos, completamos as nossas tarefas e a missão da empresa para a qual contribuímos, conseguimos encontrar as nossas motivações. Como é óbvio, nem tudo é perfeito nas grandes empresas que visitamos. Mas até nas mais pequenas, cada experiência é diferente e não há um padrão. Então, trabalhamos para quê? Para tudo. Para aprender coisas novas, para conhecer pessoas, para sermos úteis, para estarmos ocupados. O que preferiam? Passar o dia na praia a ver os dias a passar? Mas encontrar um significado não tem de ser difícil. Não é preciso refletir demasiado. O mais importante é desfrutar da viagem. É assim que imagino o futuro do trabalho. Aproveitar os nossos dias.